Hello, my name is Father Adrian Farrelly. I'm a Dominican priest, and you're very welcome to our Advent series here on EWTN. I'm speaking from the Dominican Church here in Newry in Ireland, and over the next 4 weeks we will be looking at the Sunday Gospels during Advent, where a different priest will give a reflection on the Gospel of that week of Advent. I would like to begin by reading the Gospel of the first Sunday of Advent. And it's from St. Mark's Gospel. Jesus said to his disciples, "Be on your guard, stay awake, because you never know when the time will come. It is like a man traveling abroad. He has gone from home and left his servants in charge, each with his own task, and he has told the doorkeeper to stay awake. So stay awake, because you do not know when the master of the house is returning, evening, midnight, cockcrow, dawn. If he comes unexpectedly, he must not find you asleep. And what I say to you, I say to all, stay awake." The year we have had since last Advent has been a very different year. We now realize how much we are affected by the climate and how the weather has a big influence on the world. We have seen the destruction caused by fires, strong winds, hurricanes, drought, and we also saw damage caused by rains and floods. It has been a harsh year with the weather all over the world, and we are very much aware now of climate change. What makes us worried about the future is because we now realize that we have to be better prepared and to cope with the changes in the weather, and we have to keep ourselves safe also, and how we can reduce the damage caused and the destruction caused by the unexpected weather. People now realize that we need to be prepared for unexpected weather and the dangers that come with it. And we pay closer attention to the weather forecast and other warnings that we receive. We all want to know what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. We want to be informed. We want to be prepared for what's to come. And we like to know what's going to happen. Nor do we want to miss out the good things that are about to happen also. In a way, that is what Advent is about. We begin Advent this week, and Advent is a time to prepare, to be ready for what is to come, to be ready for what is going to happen. And Advent calls on us to be prepared. And we look back to the coming of the Messiah, the birth of Jesus, and how that was and how he was received at that time. And the prophets played a very big part in preparing the people for the coming of the Lord. That preparation began hundreds of years before Christ was born. And it was the prophets who wanted the people to know what was going to happen. And they wanted the people to be ready for what was going to happen, to be prepared for the events. And they brought them the message, the news of what was going to happen. They warned the people, they prepared the people. These weeks of Advent are a time for us to prepare, to be ready. Now we begin the season of Advent this week, and this is the time for us to prepare spiritually for Christmas. For many, the preparation for Christmas means decorations and the Christmas tree, Christmas parties, giving and receiving Christmas presents. But in all of that, the true meaning of Christmas can be left out. And the true meaning of Christmas is about the nativity, the birth of Jesus. And the true meaning of Christmas must never be left out. I find it hard at times to find Christmas cards with the image of the nativity. I also find it hard to see nativity scenes in houses and in public places. In this week's gospel that I just read, Jesus is reminding the people of the call of the prophets and to be prepared for what is to come. And if we are prepared and if we are ready, we will be able to understand what is happening. It makes us realize that what can happen, things can happen at a time we don't expect. And when we're not prepared for what is to come, we see how earthquakes and tsunamis can come suddenly when we don't know, and they can cause so much destruction. So we need to be ready for such events, even when we do not know when they are going to occur. We need to be prepared. We need to be ready for the unexpected. Jesus is calling us to be prepared for the unexpected. We never know when accidents may happen, or when sickness might come, or when death comes. Death can come suddenly. When unexpected news comes to us, we don't always know what lies ahead, but we are called to be ready for such events, especially what might come suddenly. And it's the same in all aspects of life. We don't know what lies ahead. We try to be prepared. We try to be ready. And in the gospel today, Jesus speaks. He says, "Stay awake, be on your guard, because you never know when that time will come." So really, Jesus is saying, stay awake, keep your eyes open. There's so much we do not know. We don't know how long we will live. We don't know when we will die. We don't know if we will be able to cope with a crisis or a disaster. Will we be able to cope with what comes our way? So now is the time. Now is the time to learn to be ready for the unexpected, to be prepared for the future, because we never know what will happen or when it will happen. On a lighter note, I often think of those who had winning tickets in the lottery, those who could have won huge amounts of money, but they didn't because they didn't know the numbers. They didn't follow up on their winning numbers, and they never knew that they had the winning ticket. Can you imagine that happening to you, having the winning ticket but not knowing it, never knowing it, and the money never being claimed? So the message for us is to stay awake, to be ready. And we need to hear those words over and over again. We can be careless, we can be lazy, we can be out of touch, we can get distracted, we can get left out, and we don't always realize the importance of what we have missed. Advent calls us to give our attention to the big prize, and the big prize is the coming of the Lord. And the lottery is nothing compared to encountering the Lord. The coming of the Lord is much greater. A big moment for us will be when we finish our time here on earth, when we will die. The day will come and we will move to the next stage of our life. How will that be? Will we be ready? Will we be at peace? Will our faith carry us through? Part of our Christian faith is to be ready for that moment, and especially if that moment comes suddenly, because we never know the day nor the hour when God will call us from this world, from this life. And it reminds us of when Jesus was born, So many were not prepared. So many were not ready. So many missed out on the birth of Jesus. And there were those who were against a child being called a Saviour. And we ended up with the slaughter of the innocents at that time. So how will God find us when our time comes? If it came now, how would God find us? Would he find us ready? So think of your own life. How has your life been? How has your life been as a Christian? Have you been proud of your faith to be a Christian? Did you profess your faith? What good did it do to you? What love did you give? When were you forgiving? When were you compassionate? Who did we help during our life? Who did we love? Who did we bring peace and joy to? Advent is not so much about being warned, but about is an invitation to be ready, to come closer to the true meaning of Advent. It's about the good news. It's about surprise. It's a time to look forward, a time to be excited. And Advent is a season of hope. It's a time to be hopeful, and we should be hopeful during these days of Advent. We should be optimistic. We should be positive. We might not know exactly how it will be or what it will be like, but we live in hope. And we are called to be positive people, especially during these weeks of Advent. We're called to have hope, to be joyful, to be happy, and to look forward to celebrating the coming of Christ, the birth of Jesus. So friends, join us in a few moments when we will be looking further at the Gospel for the first Sunday of Advent. Hello, welcome back to week 1 of our Advent Reflection series on EWTN. And Advent is a time to be prepared to celebrate the coming of the Lord. It's not a time to be warned, but it's an invitation to be ready, to be closer to the true meaning of Advent. It's a season of hope. It's a season when we're called to be positive and to look forward to what is to come. Advent really is a time to keep focused, to keep your attention on God, to have a deeper relationship with the Lord, and to keep your eyes focused on the coming of the Lord and what that coming means. How does the Lord come to you? How do you meet the Lord? In a sense, God is with us all the time, helping us, blessing us, calling us, showing us the way, how to get our lives right. God has our best interests at heart, and He wants us to be happy, and He wants us to share in His happiness. And the happiness of Christmas is about the coming of the Lord into your life. When you become the stable in which Christ was born, Christ becomes born in you at Christmas time. Christ wants to be born in you at Christmas time. So how are you now? Do you feel ready to enter into the season of Advent? Are you looking forward to these weeks of Advent? What is the message of Advent saying to you? How is your relationship with God as you begin Advent? Looking at the first Advent, it helps us because the first Advent was about preparing the people to see the face of God with the coming of Jesus. And the birth of Jesus was an amazing time. And there was something no one wanted to miss with this great coming. They needed to be in the moment of what was happening. They needed to be able to absorb all that was part of Christ's coming. And we don't want to miss out on that when Christ comes to us. We want to embrace all that is there. We want to have an awareness of God's presence, His presence when we celebrate the birth of Jesus, when we celebrate the Nativity, when we celebrate Christmas. We want to be there at that moment. We want to be there with the Lord. We want to enjoy the coming of the Lord, the presence of the Lord, as we celebrate Christmas. And the world celebrates Christmas at Christmas time, and we want to be there. We want to meet Jesus at Christmas time. But now, during Advent, we go back to the first Advent. And it's now that the Church officially begins its preparation for the coming of the Lord and for the birth of Jesus. And it focuses our attention on the real meaning of Christmas. And during Advent we are told not to allow commercialism to take over our preparation for Christmas. And also we can become distracted away from the true meaning of Christmas. For many people, Christmas is just seen as a time off, a time for family, a time to eat and drink, a time for celebration. Many aren't aware of the reality of the birth of Jesus at Christmas. For them, that is not part of what the true meaning of Christmas is. So our celebration of Advent, our preparation during these weeks of Advent, is about putting Christ back into Christmas, making Christmas a real and a joyful celebration. And that is why we celebrate the season of Advent. And it brings us to the moment when Jesus is born, when the Messiah comes. So Advent really is a build-up to Christmas. It's a time of preparation. So we hear so much about preparation during these weeks of Advent, and we're encouraged to prepare in many ways, and to encouraged to prepare spiritually for this time. In St. Mark's Gospel, we are told to stay awake, to be on our guard. Because if we're not there, if we're not ready, then we may miss out. And it takes skill to be able to recognize the Lord, to be able to be aware of His presence. And often the Lord comes to us, but we are asleep. We're not aware of His presence. We're not aware that He's there. And in Advent, prayer is an important part for us. It plays an important part. And it helps us to get into the spirit of Advent. There are many prayers we say during Advent. One of the great prayers are the O antiphons that remind us of the preparation before the first Christmas from the Old Testament. And one prayer that I'm very aware of during Advent is the Angelus, because the Angelus is a prayer before the time of the birth of Christ, and it brings us back to the Annunciation when the angel appeared to Mary, and we say, Hail Mary, full of grace, and then we say, the Word was made flesh and dwelt amongst us. So the Angelus is very much a prayer that brings us into the season of Advent. So allow that to be your prayer. Make that part of your prayer during these weeks of Advent. And prayers like that reminds us that God is with us all the time. But very often we're not aware of that presence. We get distracted. And during these weeks of Advent, we can allow ourselves to be distracted by presents and gifts and cards and parties. Advent prepares us for the birth of the baby Jesus. And it's the baby Jesus that we honor and worship during Christmas. And The baby Jesus is the God who created us out of love. He is the all-powerful God, but he comes to us as a baby needing help, as a fragile baby, a baby who is helpless, needing to be looked after, just like any other baby. So never forget, when we celebrate Christmas, we are honouring a baby, the baby Jesus, a baby who is helpless, but who needs us to look after him, to care for him, to welcome him into our hearts, into our lives. And we are reminded that the baby Jesus is no threat to us, as no baby is. But he's a baby that needs love. He needs our attention. And he's a baby who depends on us. So remind yourselves of that as you come up to Christmas, that we're celebrating the baby Jesus. In the church during Advent, many churches invite families to bring the image of the baby Jesus to Mass, to be blessed. And then they bring the blessed baby Jesus back, and they put the baby Jesus into their creche or into their crib, reminding them that Christmas is all about the birth of a baby, the birth of baby Jesus. And I think that's a very nice gesture, where the people and families and children bring the image of the baby Jesus with them to Mass to be blessed, and they bring them up in the offertory procession of the Mass. So now we are in the time of preparation for Christmas. We're beginning the Advent season. So make time for yourself. Make time to be alone with yourself. Make space to reflect on the meaning of the coming of the Lord, and how the Lord can become present in your life, how you can welcome Christ into your life. The Old Testament was all about preparing the people for the coming of the Lord, for the birth of Jesus. And the prophets had their place. The prophets had an important place in preparing the people. The prophets are the ones who spoke about the coming of the Lord. And I'd like to finish now with a reading from one of the great prophets during Advent, the prophet Isaiah. And we hear so many of Isaiah's words in the readings during the weeks of Advent. And here's what Isaiah said. The Lord himself, therefore, will give you a sign. It is this: the maiden is with child, and will soon give birth to a son, whom she will call Emmanuel, a name which means God is with us. So we hope that these weeks of Advent will be a spiritual time for us, that we will be close to the Lord, and that we will truly celebrate the birth of Jesus this coming Christmas. So next week we will continue our Advent series, reflecting on the Gospel for the second Sunday of Advent. So from everyone here on EWTN, I would like to take this opportunity to wish you all a blessed Advent. Thank you.